In League One this week, we've seen tons of trials and tribulations. Bolton Wanderers have found their feet of victory. Huddersfield Town have suffered defeat. But what else has gone on around the grounds? We're going to take a look into all of that in this video. We're also going to preview the midweek fixtures, so make sure you stay tuned until the end of the video to see that happen. All the timestamps will be down in the description, so make sure you go and check them out. But before we do get into this video, make sure you hit that subscribe button, turn on that notification bell, and smash that like button to help push this video to brand new audiences. Let me know your thoughts on your team's performance down in the comments, and I'll catch you in the reviews. Starting off round 7 at St James's Park, where Exeter City were 2-0 victors against Stevenage. Francis and Doyle picking up the 2 goals. Now, we look at the basic numbers, 59% possession to 41%, which isn't something which you take away from Stevenage. They are often a team that give up a lot of possession in order to hit teams on the counter-attack and play more percentage-style football. Expected goals, it was 1.36 to Exeter to 0.77. 14 total shots for Exeter to 9. 1 big chance for Exeter to 2 for Stevenage. Now, if we do look at the 2 lineups, I don't think this Exeter City side is horrific. They don't have an abundance of great talent, in my opinion. They have some good players in there, the likes of Woods. I think Francis is quite good. And it's one of those where I think these players will develop over the course of the season and as they build into their systems and things like that. But you look at this Stevenage side, I think there's some really good players in there. Harvey White, Reed, Elliot List, some really, really good players who are all going to continue to get better and better. And obviously, Pierre Gianni is a player who you cannot discredit. He had a wonderful season last year. And this victory for Exeter City finds them now in 11th place. They've got themselves ahead of Stevenage, who are currently sitting in 7th. They've had a tough run over the course of the last few weeks. That's something which we're going to have to keep across over the course of the next few weeks. But Exeter City take all 3 points against Stevenage. Lincoln City face up against Wigan Athletic, and that game ended in a 0-0 draw. Pretty similar to Stevenage in the sense of Lincoln City do like to give up possession. In this game, only having 39%. 61% for Wigan, but neither side really able to create any big chances of note. 0.22 XG to 0.33 XG, Lincoln City to Wigan. 6 shots each, and it's just one of those games where realistically it's a set-piece goal that's going to win it, and one of them did not come. Now, we look at the 2 lineups. That Lincoln City side does look fairly decent, obviously still missing some massive players of that they had last season. You look at the Wigan Athletic side, and for me, I don't think it's too bad. It's going to develop over the course of the season, and this 0-0 draw for them puts them in a fairly decent position for both sides. Lincoln City currently sitting in 6th, whereas Wigan Athletic are sitting in 14th. It's obviously going to be an up and down season for every club in League One. Lots of teams struggle throughout this division over the course of a season, and that's something which I think we're going to see a lot of over the course of this one. Obviously, a lot of teams lost a lot of talent over the course of the summer, and it's just about how they establish themselves over the course of the division. Obviously, Lincoln City just finishing outside the playoffs last season. Wigan Athletic, obviously, with that points deduction, didn't finish where they would have wanted to. So it's one of those where we're going to see Wigan Athletic push forward, and will Lincoln City finally make it into the playoffs? Bolton Wanderers finally found their feet after, realistically, they took a lot of stick after their recent performances. And at the Tough Shit Community Stadium, Bolton Wanderers won 5-2 versus Reading. Sheehan picking up the goal in the 12th minute before Charles scored on the 21st, 34th and the 45th minute. 2 penalties in that. And then Dempsey rounded off the scoring in the 87th minute. But it wasn't without Reading trying to mount a comeback. They scored in the 41st to make it 3-1 and the 57th to make it 4-2. But Dempsey obviously rounded out the scoring and shut down any opportunity of a comeback as Bolton Wanderers took all 3 points. Now, this was a much better performance by Bolton Wanderers. 45% possession to 55%. So they had less of the ball, but they created an abundance of high quality chances. 3.46 XG, obviously 2 of them being penalties, so that's about 1.5 xg in total, and then expected goals for Reading was 1.83 with a penalty of their own. 18 shots apiece for these two sides, with Bolton creating 4 big chances and Reading creating just 2. Now, we look at the two sides and the system hasn't necessarily changed, in my opinion, for Bolton Wanderers. And obviously you look at the performances of Baxter, you look at Sheehan, Thomason, Odebaggio and Charles coming in and putting in some excellent performances. You've obviously got Johnston and Toyle at the back and Cogley as well, and that's just something which you can't compete with, in my opinion, when they're all on form. You look at this Reading side and you've got the likes of Elliott, Wing, Nibbs, Smith, but they were unable to find the cutting edge to win this game. You look at the players coming off the bench for Bolton as well. Randall Williams, Kyle Dempsey, Aaron Collins, John McAtee, some really good players, and that's something which Ian Evatt has to contend with, which is why they're such a staple on their performance. Now, if we look at the table, Bolton Wanderers have climbed up to 18th place with that victory, putting them on 7 points level with Reading, just behind on goal difference. But it's one of those which will be absolutely magnificent for the confidence of Bolton Wanderers after recent talks of Ian Evatt potentially being sacked. Burton Albion find defeat again this weekend, and obviously I think it was 1 defeat in 5 before this, 1 defeat in 6, something like that, and now it's 2. And it's another game where Burton probably would have been happy with a draw and to continue that unbeaten run, but they need to find a way to win games. They went behind in the 36th minute, to Luke O'Connell, scored in the 88th, where they must have thought, oh, we're going to take a draw here. But Humphreys popped up in that 90th minute for Barnsley to take all 3 points. And if you look at the numbers behind this performance, it reminds me very much of Derby County under Liam Rosenior. All bark, no bite, 63% possession, 0.33 expected goals and 8 total shots. Barnsley, on the other hand, 37% possession, 0.76 xg, 13 shots, 1 big chance. Now, if we do look at the lineups for the two sides, obviously the big caveat with Burton Albion is they brought in, 23, 24 players this summer, and ultimately they haven't been able to gel yet, and they're still finding their feet. And the big problem that they're going to see across the course of this season is a lot of these teams know each other quite well and have spent a lot of time together. But in this division, it's sort of a 2-year cycle with contracts and things like that. But Burton Albion just haven't been able to find the cutting edge. Barnsley have found some really good form in recent weeks and have picked up a really good result here. You look at the players coming off the bench with Josh Benson, Stephen Humphreys, Fabio Giallo, who came off again in the 83rd. Was that an injury? Let me know down in the comments. But Darryl Clark will be absolutely delighted with this performance, and as he should be as well. If we look at the league table, Barnsley now find themselves in 3rd position, just 3 points behind Birmingham City and Wrexham, who lead the way. Obviously, Wrexham have an extra game played on Birmingham City, as do Barnsley. But it's really interesting to see that Burton Albion, despite the big changes over the summer, still find themselves in that relegation zone and in that battle with only 4 points out of 6 games, all coming from draws. Charlton Athletic taste defeat, and they'll be very disappointed with this one. Steve Bruce has got an absolute job going on at Blackpool. He's had a really good start. If I remember rightly, I think they won their previous game as well, and Blackpool taking a 2-1 victory with Ghassan Hadmi own goal in the 28th minute, Morgan scoring in the 32nd. Luke Berry did start a tiny comeback in the 96th minute, but it was more of a consolation goal. And this is one where I personally think Charlton Athletic are going to be very disappointed. Possession was quite even, 51% to 49, but in expected goals, 2.22 to 0.70, 14 total shots to 7, 1 big chance apiece. And if we do look at the two lineups, you've obviously got some really good players in both sides, in my opinion, and obviously Blackpool are going through that new manager bounce. These results do happen during this period. It's going to be really interesting to see how it goes, but Nathan Jones will be really disappointed not to come away with anything from this one. We obviously look at the league table now, and that sees Charlton slip into 4th place. They now fall behind Barnsley and obviously into the clutches of Huddersfield and Lincoln, who both have a game in hand, as well as Stockport, Mansfield and Wycombe can all get ahead of the Charlton team, which is going to be very interesting. A defeat at the Valley is something Nathan Jones wouldn't have wanted. As we talk about Huddersfield Town being able to take advantage of Charlton Athletic, we see they took defeat this weekend. Northampton taking a 3-1 victory in an impressive performance, in my opinion, by Northampton Town. I've said it time and time again about Northampton. I think they'll be comfortable in this division. Last year, they went about their business quietly, just did what they needed to do and got their results, and they're doing that again this season. They went 3-0 up versus Huddersfield, at Huddersfield as well, which is something you don't necessarily anticipate with this Huddersfield Town team, who have been really, really good this season. A high Wycombe goal in the 18th minute before McGeehan and Fosu pick up the next goals in the 25th and 58th minute respectively. Odemeo scored, didn't score, he got sent off, sorry, in the 83rd minute, which is obviously disappointing for Northampton, but they'll live and learn from that one. Karoma tried to start a comeback, but it didn't go to plan. Now, you'll obviously look at these numbers, and Northampton Town certainly didn't deserve to be 3 goals in the good, but Huddersfield Town didn't take their chances, and Northampton took theirs, and that is the big thing about this division. It's not always about creating the best possible chance. Sometimes it's about taking the chances you do have. You don't get masses of opportunities, and even if you do, you probably miss 1 in 4 anyway. So it's one of those for me where 1.8 expected goals for Huddersfield to 0.8, 16 total shots to 7, 3 big chances to 2. But the victors were Northampton Town. They came away 3-1 winners. Huddersfield find themselves 5th, and Northampton find themselves in 12th. It's going to be interesting to see how these two do play out. I think Huddersfield Town will bounce back rather quickly. Now, if you have not done so already, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below and turn on that notification bell to stay tuned for all of my latest Derby County and EFL League One and Championship content. Hopefully, over the course of the next month or so, we'll be able to bring in some live streams so that I can interact with you guys on a more live basis and go through some things that you guys want to see. But make sure you hit that like button to push this video to brand new audiences. Let me know your thoughts on the League One weekend. Let me know what you think heading into the midweek games, and I'll catch you in the next bit of this video. Mansfield Town came away 2-1 victors versus Shrewsbury Town, but they did not do it the easy way at the One Call Stadium. Castelline scored in the 2nd minute. I've probably absolutely butchered that name. Correct me down in the comments. Scored in the 2nd minute for Shrewsbury, put them in a 1-0 lead before Lee Gregory equalised from the penalty spot after 49 minutes. Lewis popped up in the 86th to secure victory for Nigel Clough and Mansfield Town in a victory which they will probably say they deserved. Now, 55% possession to 45, it's one of those for me where I think possession in this division is very up and down. 2.08 XG to 1.19, 14 shots to 12, 2 big chances apiece. It just shows in this division, if you take your chances, you win your games. Now, if we do look at the 2 lineups for the 2 sides, you've obviously got Mansfield, who are replacing Davis Kyler Dunn. It's not going to be an easy task, but they've found a way for victory here. Obviously, Gregory and Lewis are coming off the bench to score. You've got some really good players in here like Reed, Osalaja, Gregory, some really, really good talent. You look at the Shrewsbury team as well, and I don't think it's necessarily League One contending, but I think it's certainly a decent side. You look at the players on the bench for Paul Hurst as well. It's not like they're not the greatest players in the world for League One, but they have capability of playing in this division, and it's going to be interesting to see where these 2 teams do end up. If we look at Mansfield Town right now, currently sitting level on points with Lincoln City in the playoffs, whereas you've got Shrewsbury Town, who are sitting down there in that relegation zone on just 3 points after 7 games. It's going to be interesting to see how this one progresses across the course of the season, but Mansfield take all 3 points. Peterborough United went 3 goals to the good, but nearly cost themselves all 3 points as Bristol Rovers started a late comeback in the 75th and 76th minute. Poku, Jones and Mothersill scoring for Peterborough to put them 3-0 up in the 10th, 33rd and 63rd minute before McCormack and O'Donker scored in the 75th and 76th minute to try and mount that late comeback, but it just didn't quite go to plan for Bristol Rovers. Obviously, you never want to go 3-0 down anyway. It's always putting yourself in a bad position, especially against a side like Peterborough with some of the quality they have in their squad. 56% possession to 44%. Peterborough will be happy with that. I'm assuming towards the back end of the game, once they conceded those 2 goals, I'm guessing they just sat in and weathered the storm, essentially. 1.46 XG to 1.09, 12 total shots to 17, 6 big chances to 2. So it could have been much more for Peterborough. We look at the 2 lineups. It's good to see Sparks finally finding his feet. You've got Collins in there as well. I personally don't think this system's right, if I'm going to be completely honest. I think this is probably a little bit off. Jones and Conclark playing as well. Conclark had to come off after 20 minutes for Mothersill, who came on. You then look at the side for Bristol Rovers. Sousa putting in a fairly decent performance, picking up an assist. But it's one of those where I'm just wondering, where is Chris Martin, Bristol Rovers fans? Is he suspended? Is he injured? What's going on? Because I'm sure he renewed his contract. Let me know down in the comments. But Peterborough will be delighted with this performance. It obviously helps them jump up the table a little bit. They're now sitting on 10 points. Just 3 points away from 4th place. Just 6 points away from the top of the table. Bristol Rovers still sitting on 7 after their 3rd defeat on the trot. There's going to be some big questions asked at Bristol Rovers after some big changes this summer. As I mentioned earlier in the week, Birmingham City, I just couldn't see past them for this game. It's a 2-0 victory. Iwata and Stanisfield scoring the goals away at Rotherham, and who can be surprised by it, really, when you look at the money Birmingham City have spent? And that is going to be the talking point this season. I know a lot of people keep mentioning it down in the comments, but some of the, like Stanisfield, for example, has cost more than some clubs have spent over the last 10, 20 years. So it is going to be very interesting to see how this progresses. Now, if we look at the numbers behind the game, 32% possession to 68, 0.52 XG for Rotherham to 1.93, 7 total shots to 16, 5 big chances to 0. Now, I'm not entirely sure what's going on with Steve Evans, but his job is going to be on the line at some point over the course of maybe the next month or two, in my opinion, if he doesn't start to pick up some form, because it is really disappointing for Rotherham United at the moment. I think they're sitting down near that relegation zone. Now, if we look at the 2 sides, it's quite obvious which side is the better side, and you look at the players available. You've got Lyndon Dykes, Stanisfield, Pike, you've got Hansen, Iwata, and you think about some of the players who didn't play in this game. Christian Bielik. You look at some of the players coming off the bench, Scott Wright, Alfie May, Mark Leonard, some really, really good players. You look at Ryan Alsop as well, a really good goalkeeper. And it's just difficult to look past Birmingham City getting the title at the end of this season. Now, if we do look at the league table, Birmingham City are sitting in 2nd position. They do have a game in hand, so they could go 3 points clear when they do play that. But you look at Rotherham United, just 6 points from 7 games. It's not very good at all. They did go 3 unbeaten with a win and 2 draws, but that's not quite good enough for Rotherham United, in my opinion. I really thought they'd be fighting for the title this season, but as it shows right now, they are not. It's going to be interesting to see how this one progresses over the course of the next few weeks. And Stockport have found their comeuppance as Leyton Orient batter them 4-1. Now, this was a very, very interesting game, in my opinion. Leyton Orient, one of them teams across the course of League One who are happy to sit off the ball and let the opposition have the ball. And they find themselves 2-0 up after just 17 minutes. Diamond scored in the 50th minute for Stockport, but that wasn't enough to mount a comeback, as Ajayi and Clare rounded off the scoring in the 57th and 81st minute. So we look at the basic numbers here. It's 63% possession to 37%, 2.03 XG to 1.57, 18 total shots to 9, 1 big chance to 2. Now, Leyton Orient will know that they can't perform like this every week and pick up 4-1 victories. They'll know that they can't perform like this every week and win games, because some teams will make the most of this. Now, we look at the performances, and it quite clearly wasn't a good day for the goalkeeper at Stockport County, conceding 4 goals. You also look at some big players like Norwood and Barry, who didn't necessarily have the day that they normally have. And you look at the team here for Leyton, Orient, Brown picking up a really good performance, Clare and Ajay and Galbraith putting up another really, really good performance. It's going to be really interesting to see how Leyton Orient do this season. They obviously started really, really poorly, but now they find themselves out the relegation zone with back-to-back wins. I did say they'd had a difficult start to the season, but they're getting into those games that are a little bit easier. Although up next they face Peterborough United. I think that's one of the midweek games, which we're going to be previewing towards the end. And Stockport find themselves now in 7th place with their first loss of the season. I think that leaves just Birmingham City now as the only unbeaten side in the division. Are they going to go all the way unbeaten, Birmingham City, or is someone like Stockport going to beat them? Wrexham take another victory as they beat Crawley Town 2-1. It's a really good performance for Wrexham, in my opinion. They've got a few of these in the locker. I think they're a really good side, Wrexham. And Crawley Town are what I would like to call a possession-based team. And I think at times they're really good on the ball, and I think at times you can see the differing quality between the sides that they play. You obviously look here, 42% to 82% possession, 1.10 XG to 1.93, 15 total shots to 19, 1 big chance to 2, and Crawley Town will probably think that they should have taken at least a point in this game, but Wrexham defending valiantly to make sure they take all 3 points. You look at the performance from all the back line, pretty much all of them apart from McLean are green, and that speaks volumes in my opinion. You look at the side for Crawley, you've got some good performances in that forward area, but not some great ones towards the back end. It's something which Crawley will look to improve across the course of the season. Obviously, Wrexham sitting at the top of the form table. Well, they're sitting second in the form table, I think. But they're sitting top of the league right now, while Crawley Town are sitting down in 17th. After that amazing start, they've only picked up 1 point in the last 4 games. It's going to be very interesting to see how that changes over the course of the next few weeks. Obviously, Bolton Wanderers for them up next, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens with both of these sides. Wycombe Wanderers faced up against Cambridge United, and Cambridge fell to defeat yet again this season. McCleary and Humphreys scoring, Humphreys late on in the day. Alundu scoring in the 19th minute to bring Cambridge back into play, but that late goal from Humphreys sort of sealed the deal at Adams Park. A really difficult day for Cambridge, who really struggled on the grand scheme of things within this game. Wycombe Wanderers by far the better team, 65% possession to 35%, 1.45 XG to 0.2, 18 total shots to 4 big chances to 0. If we're being completely honest, scoring a goal was a bit lucky. And you look at the performances, Humphreys, McCleary, Morley, Scowen, really good performers. You obviously got Taylor in that back line as well. It's always interesting watching Wycombe Wanderers and the way they play, because it seems like they can flip between a range of different styles, and it's really interesting to watch these sides play. And you look at the likes of Corey Smith and his experience, and he's not quite taken charge of that Cambridge United team yet, but Wycombe Wanderers find themselves just a point outside of the playoffs with a game in hand on Charlton, which is where they could go. So could Peterborough, could match up with Charlton and Barnsley, and that's obviously interesting to look at. And then you've got Cambridge sitting rock bottom with 5 losses out of 6 with just 1 point picked up. They are able to score goals, which is the interesting thing. It's not quite as bad as Cardiff City in the Championship, but it's going to be very interesting to see how these two teams do change across the course of the season. Now, we're going back in time to, I think it was round 5, where we started the international break. We're going to take a look into the 3 midweek fixtures which we have this week. Obviously, there's a lot of things that happened over the course of the weekend. Let's get into these previews before the midweek games. So tomorrow night we see Huddersfield Town take on Blackpool. It's going to be really interesting to see how this one goes. Obviously Steve Bruce in charge now at Blackpool, and Huddersfield Town on a great run. Look at those two form tables. You've got Blackpool 3 wins and a draw and 1 loss, where Huddersfield Town have lost 4 and only won 1. It was a really good win though versus Bolton Wanderers. And this is going to be really difficult for Huddersfield Town, in my opinion. I think Blackpool are going to slowly edge their way up the table. It is on Sky Sports Plus. If you do want to watch that, make sure you tune in. Next up, you've got Leyton Orient facing up against Peterborough, and this is going to be a very, very difficult one for Leyton Orient. Now, you look at the form tables, and it's really, really disappointing for Leyton Orient. They've lost practically all their games, bar their previous 2 league games. I think they may have won a cup game in there as well. But they've been really, really disappointing. But they picked up 2 wins in their last 2 league games. Are they going to be able to continue that form into Peterborough? That's going to be the interesting question, as Peterborough have won 3 out of their 5 with a draw and a loss. They beat Bristol Rovers at the weekend. It's going to be interesting to see how this one progresses. I think Leyton Orient might just pip it. Wigan Athletic will be looking to get back to winning ways after drawing versus Lincoln City. They face up against Stevenage, who will be looking for the same after a 2-0 defeat to Exeter. It's going to be interesting to see how this one plays out. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. So there we have all our reviews and previews for the upcoming games. We'll be back again on Wednesday with a review of the games that played midweek, and we'll also be looking ahead to those fixtures this weekend. So make sure you do hit that subscribe button and stay tuned for all of the latest Derby County and EFL League One and Championship content heading your way across the course of this season. Make sure you hit that like button and drop a comment, and I'll catch you in the next one. Find me on TikTok, pictured here, and Twitter, pictured here. These are the places where I'll keep you all up to date with all my upcoming videos and my thoughts and feelings around the Formula 1 and football weekend.